Now let's learn the letter N. N takes up the X space and the header. To start, you go towards the bottom of the X space, make a little dot, and then you curve it down to the very bottom of the X space before pushing up to the top of the header. Then you're going to lift your pen, move slightly above the line you just drew, and you're going to pull down a curved line to the bottom of the X space. Lift your pen again, move slightly up that curve you just made, push back out up to the header, and end by curving out to the left and making a little dot. Let's do that again. I'm going to start towards the bottom of my X space, make a dot before pulling down to the very bottom of the X and pushing all the way up to the top of the header. I'm going to lift my pen, move it slightly to the left above that line I just made before pulling a curved line down to the bottom of the X space. I'm going to move my pen back just slightly on that curve I just drew, and I'm going to push up into the header, and at the very top I'm going to curve out to the right and end in a dot. I'm going to do that again, grab more ink. Towards the bottom of my X space, I'm going to make a dot and then curve it down to the very bottom of the X and push up to the top of my header. Then I'm going to move my pen slightly to the left, pull a curved line down to the bottom of my X space, and then I'm going to move my pen back slightly from that curve I just made, push all the way up to the top of my header, and at the very top, curve out to the right and end in a dot. Let's do that one more time. I'm going to start by making a dot towards the bottom of my X space. Pull a curve down to the very bottom before pushing up to the top of my header. I'm going to move my pen slightly to the left and pull a curved line down to the very bottom of my X space. Move my pen back just slightly in that curve, push up into the header, and at the very top I'm going to curve out to the left and end in a dot. Let's do that one last time here. I'm going to start by making a dot at the bottom of my X space, pull it down to the very bottom before pushing up into the header. I'm going to move my pen a little to the left before pulling a curved line down to the bottom of my X space. Then I'm going to move my pen back slightly on that curve, and I'm going to push up into the header before curving it to the left at the very top and end in a dot. Once you have done capital N's all the way across your line, you're going to move on to a lowercase n, which is very, very similar to an M. So what you are going to do is in your X space, you are going to push a line up from the bottom of the X. At the top of the X, you're going to curve back down and pull a line down to the bottom of the X space. Then you're going to pick up your pen, move back to the top of that line you just drew, curve out to the left before pulling down to the bottom of the X, and then you're going to curve it out to the right. Let's do that again. I'm going to start at the bottom of my X space, push up to the top of the X before curving at the top and pulling back down. I'm going to lift my pen towards the top of that line I just drew. I'm going to curve out to the right before pulling down. At the bottom, I'm going to flip out to the right. Again, I'm going to start at the bottom of my X space, push up to the top of the X, and at the top I'm going to curve and pull back down. I'll lift my pen, move towards the top of that curve I just made, curve out to the right before pulling down, and at the bottom I'm going to flip out to the right. One last time, I'm going to start at the bottom of my X. I'm going to push up to the top of the X, and at the top I'm going to pull back down to the bottom. Then I will lift my pen. I'm going to go towards the top of that curve I just made, and I'm going to curve out and up to the top of the X, and then I'm going to pull down, and at the bottom of the X I'm going to curve out to the right. Practice some lowercase n's all the way across this line. Once you have finished, you can move on to the next video.